In the name of God, the most merciful, the most compassionate, and welcome to the third panel of this conference, the title of which is Iran's Strategic Doctrine post-October 7th. With us we have three papers presented by two male presenters and two female presenters, all to do with changes in Iran's strategic doctrine post-October 7th. We will start with Abbas, Maleki and Maryam Hasheminejad's paper, Iran's Strategic Calculus After the 2023 Gaza War, Balancing Deterrence and Regional Security Coalitions. Dr. Abbas Maleki is from Sharif University of Technology in Tehran, Iran, former Deputy Foreign Minister of Iran for Research and Education. He was also a senior member of the Iran-Iraq War negotiation team, and he was also a scholar at Harvard and Massachusetts institutions. You can read more about his biography in the booklet. And the other participant is Ms. Maryam Hasheminejad. She is a master's student in global risk at the Johns Hopkins University School of Advanced International Studies, Europe. She was previously a PhD student in international relations at Shahid Beheshti University, Iran, and holds an MA in regional studies. You can read more about her bio in the booklet. We have 15 minutes per paper. We start with the first paper, Dr. Abbas and Ms. Maryam.
Thank you very much. It's a great honor to be here and present my paper. Today's presentation my presentation focuses on Iran's strategic calculus after the 2023 Gaza war, balancing deterrence and regional security coalitions. Well, as this war not only reshaped the security dynamics of the Middle East, but it also directly challenged Iran's deterrence doctrine and its role in the regional order. Okay. Iran's traditional regional strategy was centered on the so-called axis of resistance, an assemblage of state and non-state actors united by opposition to Israel and the U.S. regional influence. For decades, this framework provided Iran with an effective mechanism of asymmetric deterrence and strategic depth without engaging in direct, large-scale confrontation. Yet, this model encountered two profound shocks. One, the 2023 Gaza war, in which Iran's partners proved unable to act cohesively, and the 12-day Iran-Israel war of June 2025, which for the first time tested Iran's own sovereign capabilities in direct confrontation. Well, these two episodes form the empirical foundation of our study, and we want to do a comparative assessment of these two paths in front of Iran based on the geopolitical risks of these two. So these events raise the central research question: in the aftermath of this crisis, what strategic trajectory should Iran pursue? Should it consolidate sovereign deterrence or seek to re-energize regional coalitions. The Gaza war highlighted the severe limitations of Iran's coalition system. Hamas sustained unprecedented military and diplomatic losses. Hezbollah, though military capable, confined itself to limited border engagements. Iraqi groups were fragmented and constrained by internal political calculations, and the Houthis managed to disrupt maritime routes in the Red Sea but lacked broader coordination. So, the aggregate effect was a fragmented and largely ineffective performance, revealing the structural weakness of Tehran's coalition-based posture. So in this matter, we faced a regional geopolitical shifts in the Middle East. These operational outcomes coincided with deeper regional realignments, the disintegration of Syria as a reliable state ally deprived Iran of a vital land corridor to Lebanon. More significantly, the acceleration of Arab-Israel normalization involving the UAE, Bahrain, and overtures by Saudi Arabia marked a profound tilt in the regional order. So, this process undercut Iran's ability to present itself as the hub of an anti-Israel front, and the resistant narrative, long central to its legitimating discourse, appeared outdated in the context of increasingly shaped by economic integration and security partnerships with Israel. So in this case, Tehran's isolated, therefore, deepened. Turn toward sovereign deterrence. This is what Iran chose after these events of the Middle East. Faced with these realities, Iran initiated a doctrinal recalibration privileging sovereign deterrence over reliance on coalitions. The new posture rests on four interconnected pillars. One, precision-guided missiles and drones, offering the ability to strike adversary infrastructure with unprecedented accuracy. Cyber warfare directed at Israeli and US-aligned critical systems, broadening the spectrum of deterrence tools. Asymmetric naval tactics in the Strait of Hormuz, reinforcing Iran's leverage in a global choke point, and nuclear ambiguity, carefully managed to signal latent capacity without overt weaponization. The underlying aim to reduce dependence on reliable allies while enhancing Iran's direct leverage over adversaries. So, what are the advantages of sovereign deterrence of Iran? First, we can say it has operational autonomy, freeing Tehran from the inconsistent agendas of external actors. The second is credibility. Enhanced credibility demonstrated vividly in 2025 when precision strikes reached Israeli targets. The third one is negotiating leverage, which strengthens Iran's capacity for coercive diplomacy. And the fourth is psychological deterrence, as the perception of resilient capabilities increases the expected cost of preemptive strikes. But, however, this posture is far from risk-free. One, escalation risk, since visible missile and nuclear capabilities may provoke preemptive Israeli or US actions. Second one, economic vulnerabilities, as expanded military programs invite harsher sanctions, exacerbating domestic hardship. Air defense gaps exposed during the 2021-25 confrontation, highlighting Iran's susceptibility to precision counterstrikes. Diplomatic isolation with Gulf states, deepening ties to Washington and Tel Aviv in direct response, and finally, domestic legitimacy erosion if securitization is pursued at the expense of economic relief. Well, my partner, Professor Abbas Maleki, will continue with the second option of Iran.
Action. Thank you. As Ms. Hasheminejad mentioned, Iran's turn to sovereign deterrence came with several advantages. First, operational autonomy and capability. Second, credibility. The precision strikes demonstration during the 2025 confrontation with Israel strengthened Iran's deterrence image. And third, negotiating power. Tehran is able to engage in coercive diplomacy or other positive diplomacy and some negative diplomacy from a stronger position now, and fourth, psychological leverage. Adversaries must now factor in the higher cost of any preemptive strike. And the risk and challenges of sovereign deterrence is yet sovereign deterrence carries serious risk. Its visible missile and nuclear capabilities may provoke Israeli or US preemptive action. The expansion of military programs risk harsher sanction and deeper economic hardship. Iranian air defense remains vulnerable, as shown in 2025. Diplomatic Persian Gulf states could draw even closer to the US and Israel, further isolating Tehran. And finally, over-militarization without economy relief could undermine Iran's domestic legitimacy. And as I know, I think the best way for Iran is to look at the option 2. Option 2 is a regional security coalition or coalitions. To rebuild regional coalitions, historically, these extended Iran's strategic depths are relatively low cost. Non-state actors include Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis. Yet Hamas has been weakened, Hezbollah is capable but restrained, and only the Houthis maintain disruptive power in Red Sea. Among state actors, Iraq is asserting sovereignty and distancing sometimes from Tehran, while Qatar and Oman serve mainly as diplomatic intermediaries. Russia and China, meanwhile, prefer neutrality. And a structural vulnerability of coalitions is the coalition model has its own weaknesses. Proxies act autonomously and often prioritize their own agenda. This is very important, and as the wars of 2023 and 2025 demonstrated, coalitions no longer provide reliable deterrence during crisis. But comparative advances, comparative assessments, and hybrid approach, we believe it is better, and we propose to Iranian government, when we compare the two options, the picture is mixed. Sovereign deterrence offers credibility and autonomy, but risk escalate. And coalitions provide legitimacy and depth, but are declining in effectiveness. Neither option alone is sufficient. Our conclusion, therefore, is that Iran must pursue a hybrid strategy, combine sovereign deterrence with selective coalition building and diplomacy, maintain technological autonomy in missiles, drones, and cyber tools, and use Oman and Qatar and others as mediators to manage the case of crisis and calibrate nuclear ambiguity carefully, presenting Iran not only as military actor, but also as pragmatic negotiator. And finally, a conclusion. In conclusion, I think in the post-2023 environment, Iran has shifted towards sovereignty deterrence, but this path is risky without diplomacy. The sustainable path is balanced, a carefully managed hybrid model that combines hard power with proactive regional engagement. Thank you. I think also playing a better role in regional conceptual organization. I want to say that Iran has two subsystems. One subsystem is Middle East, as we are part of Middle East. But Iran has another subsystem as West Asian countries. In Caucasia, in Central Asia, in Indian subcontinent, and Persian Gulf also part of this West Asia subsystem. Therefore, Iran must shift gradually. I proposed when I was in foreign ministry in 1991, December 1991, when the president of Russian Soviet Socialist Republic and Belarus Republic and Ukraine president, they gathered near Minsk in 15th of December of 1991, and they decided to withdraw from Soviet Union. I proposed to Iranian government to withdraw from Middle East, and it is better to go to the Central Asia, Caspian Sea, and Caucasia. But now some of our colleagues here also, they design Iran as octopus in the region. Really, Iran is better to withdraw not from IEA or NPT. It is better to withdraw from Middle East. Thank you.
شكرا دكتور عباس ودكتورة مريم. الورقة الثانية بعنوان النظام الجديد لمرحلة ما بعد 7 تشرين أول أكتوبر والتحول في السياسة الأمنية الإيرانية. ومقدمها هو الدكتور.
So the following paper is going to be presented by Dr. Reza Amiri, the new order of post-October the 7th, and the shift in Iran's security policy. So Dr. Reza is going to be presenting his paper. He is a visitor in the Middle East Institute, so he is interested in foreign policies, governance, and politics in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, international relations, dynamics in the Middle East. He's authored at great length in both Persian and English. So you have 15 minutes, Dr. Reza, to deliver your intervention.
First of all, I want to thank the Iranian Studies Unit at the Arab Center for Research and Policy Studies, in particular Dr. Kamrava. The topic of my research is the new order of the post-October 7 and the shift in Iran's security policy. The fact is that Iran's security policy over the past decades was based on extraterritorial and network deterrence, which founded an alliance with non-state regional actors like Hamas, and my colleagues also mentioned Hezbollah. As Samullah argues, reliance on proxy forces became central to Iran's asymmetric warfare or deterrence strategy. I think two factors has affected Iran choose this kind of deterrence policy as a security policy. versus historical sentiments stemming from a perceived strategic loneliness, i.e. depriving of reliable, powerful allies. And the second factor is confrontational environment within the anarchic regional structure. In the Al-Aqsa storm incident in 2023 led to military confrontation between Hamas and Lebanon's Hezbollah with Israel. The consequence was severe weakening the axis of resistance, so the ineffectiveness of the Iran's traditional deterrence policy, which was network and proxy deterrence. This situation became worse by the collapse of Syria. This condition led to transformation in the regional security order and altering the balance of power within the anarchic structure of the regime. This structural pressure compelled Iran to reassess its security policies. So, as you can see, Al-Aqsa storm directly affected Iran's security policy. The research question is that how has Iran's security policy been shaped considering the new regional order following the October 7th events? The hypothesis is that Iran's security policy following the weakening of its non-state alliance or proxies and the shift in the balance of power in the Middle Eastern geopolitics to its disadvantage has come to rely on a form of hybrid balancing. Research method is actually based on the qualitative methodology, but theoretical framework is structural realism or neorealism. As my colleagues also earlier explained about that, just one principle I want to more focus, which is balance of power, is a main or key principle in structural realism. Can has two dimension: internal balancing and external balancing. The October 7 incidents at the New Middle East New Middle East order. The New Middle Eastern order rests on two main pillars. The first pillar actually is Iran and the axis of the resistance. And the second pillar is Israel and its Western allies. They confronted actually each other. The New Middle East, we talk about that, has some features. First, the weakening of the geopolitics of the resistance. The second is the reinforcement of the balance of power in favor of Israel and other regional rivals. And the third is escalating pressure on Iran and the deepening of its security challenges, and the fourth, the inefficacy of the balance of terror. I just want to explain very shortly about these features. The first feature is the weakening of the geopolitics of resistance. As we know, the axis of resistance is greatly, weakened by the new situation. The second feature is the reinforcement of balance of power in favor of Israel in other regional and other regional rivals. I think some factors can help. Could help Israel. The balance of power change in favor of Israel. For example, drastic degradation of the armed strength and leadership of the resistance. Israel occupation of strategic territories. We can see in Syria and Lebanon. And third, the lack of the strategic cooperation of Iraqi government with Iran. We can observe that. We can observe it during the Iran and Israel war. And the last one is the reinforcement of Israel military capacity. The fact is that Israel now is more stronger than before in terms of armament. And the third feature is the escalating pressure on Iran and deepening of its security challenges. Measurement last year in Doha in his speech, mentioned that development in the Middle East is a part of broader geopolitical competition between two major global blocs. On one side are the United States, Europe, and Israel, and on the other, China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea. In this context, it seems that Iran holds a unique position because Iran is accused of pursuing military nuclear activity. Iran is also accused of instigating regional instability. Iran is accused of supporting Al-Ansar in Yemen, which is considered as a threat for the commercial vessels. In total, we can say that from a security standpoint, within the emerging regional order, Iran finds itself in an increasingly constrained position. And the last feature of the new, the Middle East, new Middle East order is the inefficacy of the balance of terror. I believe that, the recent war between Iran and Israel totally eroded the balance of terror. It means which was based on mutual fear of retaliation, because there is no actually limitation for these two countries, and it is possible anytime they attack each other. As I mentioned, a structural pressure. Under this structural pressure, Iran's security policy formed based on a balancing strategy, which has two actually aspects: internal balancing and external balancing. In terms of internal balancing, I can say that Iran tried to actually focus on enhancement of its military and defense capability. Because of the strategic loneliness of Iran, which revealed in 12-day war, Iran's need to focus on this part of its capability. And the second, part of the internal balancing of Iran is enhancing national spirit and unity by focusing on some notion and terms like homeland and nationalism instead of the ummatism. External balancing can also have different dimension, enhancing a strategic political military relation with main tactical allies, in particular Russia and China. In other words, allying balancing, which is mentioned in the structural realism also. Redefining relation with the regional state, in particular Lebanon. Because at the moment Lebanon has a different situation because of the new president in Lebanon. So Iran tried to engage in Lebanon in a different, in a smart way. In order to keep its influence, despite the changing the president. And the third is the support for a status quo in Yemen and the maintenance of the relation with Iraqi Popular Mobilization Force, or PMF, or Hashd al-Sha'bi. So the fact is that the situation in Yemen now at the moment is in favor of Iran, because Yemen still is attacking Israel. So it can help Iran in terms of deterrence and balancing the power and maintaining of relation with Iraqi Popular Mobilization Force. This is also important for Iran. We know PMF couldn't help Iran during the last year, or particular in the 12-day war, but still it can be considered as a leverage for Iran. So Iran doesn't want to easily lose this leverage to use it for changing the balance of power. And the last one, consideration of relation with the neighboring state based on so-called neighboring policy. So, Although there are some problems between Iran and neighboring countries, in particular Arab countries or Arab states, but the fact is that Iran can use, this leverage also because Iran is under pressure internationally and also under pressure of Israel. So by mediation of some countries, Iran tried to improve it in order to preserve itself from this external pressure. In conclusion, I can say that the events of October 7, 2023 have established a new security order in the region, with Iran being the most significantly affected. The current regional order resulting from the structural transformation has several critical implications for Iran. First, it has led to a decline in Iran's influence and strategic depth in the region. The second, Iran has experienced the loss and weakening of its regional alliance. Third, the balance of power has shifted in favor of its regional rivals and their extra-regional allies. Fourth, the anarchic structure of the regime has intensified, increasing likelihood of conflict and confrontation among adversarial actors. And fifth, arms race have escalated due to deepening mistrust among the regional players. And six, regional alliance and emerging power dynamic are undergoing significant. Indeed, new structural imperative and pressure have compelled Iran to adopt a hybrid balancing strategy, simultaneously emphasizing internal and external balancing mechanism. Due to Iran's strategic loneliness, which evident during the Iran and Israel 12-day war, Iran possibly revived a policy of extraterritorial deterrence, in particular in Yemen, because these groups are still active, and Iraq, and is it possible even in Lebanon? Because the absence of regional non-state allies could exacerbate the vulnerability stemming from Iran's strategic loneliness. Iran can also leverage emerging opportunities such as the Taliban, Islamic Emirate, and anti-Western, anti-Israel radical groups in the region. In the conclusion, also I can stress that Iran will rely on domestic capability more than before because of the fragility Iran's extraterritorial deterrence and also the historical experience which Iran has. So Iran's new security policy in hard power domain will be more than ever grounded in the indigenous capabilities, and despite all doubt and mistrust, alliance building with the Eastern powers, in particular Russia and China, and the development of its tie with the regional state appears inevitable, yet this cannot contribute too significantly to Iran's deterrent capabilities. Thank you for your attention.
شكرا دكتور رضا على العرض.
Thank you very much, Dr. Reza, for the presentation, for abiding also by the time allocated to you. Going to move to the last paper. So this is the paper that is going to be presented by our following presenter, Zakieh Yazdanshenas, who is going to be with us. We do apologize for mispronouncing the name. She's an assistant professor of global studies at the University of Tehran and a research fellow at the Center for Applied Research in partnership with the Orient in Bonn. She is also a senior research fellow at the Center for Scientific Research and Middle East Strategic Studies in Tehran. She is interested in studies about China, the MENA region, and also regional security and competition between the US and China and the implications for the Middle East. So in the booklet, you will have further details about Dr. Zakieh. I would like to give her the floor to present her paper.
Good afternoon, friends, colleagues, professors. It's really an honor to be here. Thank you, Dr. Komrava and the great team of Iranian Studies Unit for having me here. As our esteemed coordinator said, my name is Zakieh Yazdanshenas, and I'm with the University of Tehran. As you see, I'm using the logo of my university, but I should mention that what I'm going to share with you is only my own opinion. Before starting my presentation, I wanted to mention that once I was Googling my name, because we all do this, right? And I figured out actually there is another Zakieh Yazdanshenas, and she's actually an academic, but in the real field of science, in chemical engineering. I'm just saying that I'm not that Zakieh Yazdanshenas, I'm the other one with the boring stuff, reading some pieces about security, about defense, about international politics, and all this boring stuff that we talk here about, and I'm going to talk about. What I'm going to share with you is not something really different from things that other friends shared here. Maybe only framing it in a different way. And mainly it is a little more related to the security architecture of the Persian Gulf and specifically the recent Iranian attacks on Al-Udeid base here in Qatar. Over the past 4.5 decades, sustained hostility between Iran and Israel has become deeply institutionalized, embedded antagonism into the core political and strategic identities of both states. And yet until recently, this enmity remained indirect, manifesting through proxy conflicts and what is often described as shadow warfare. Deterrence, as the organizing principle of Iran's military security doctrine, enabled the country to avoid direct invasions for more than 3 decades following the Iran-Iraq war.
Zakieh.
Okay. However, this is no longer the case, as Israel and the United States directly invaded Iran on June 23. These developments prompt a critical strategic question. Is Iran actually going to abandon deterrence? Or if not, how will Iran recalibrate its deterrence strategy, its deterrence posture in the light of these experiences, the post-October 7 developments and the experience of the 12-day war? This paper actually argues that Iran is transitioning from deterrence by denial to a new kind of deterrence by punishment, a posture defined not by passive deflection, but by active threats of retaliation against U.S. allies and U.S. interests across the Persian Gulf region. And this approach seeks to convince adversaries that the cost of any possible aggression will far outweigh any potential gains. And to prove this hypothesis, I used and combined 3 different theoretical approaches. The regional security complex theory introduced by Barry Boson, the concept of deterrence, the concept of Iranian hybrid deterrence, and the bargaining model of war. It's not actually a theoretical framework, mainly a theoretical model. Let me start with the basics of Iranian hybrid deterrence. When it comes to Iranian hybrid deterrence, it is based on 2 elements, and it contains 3 different pillars. The first element is Iranian threat perception, and the second element is self-assessment, Iranian self-assessment of its own capabilities, its own abilities. The widespread deployment of US and Israeli military and intelligence installations around Iran, around the region, has intensified Iranian sense of strategic encirclement and deepened its insecurity. And in addition, the pronounced asymmetry in military capabilities between Iran and its adversaries, particularly the United States, has prevented Iran to establish a conventional balance of power capable of preventing military aggression. When we want to talk about the pillars, the first one is Iranian nuclear latency, the potential nuclear latency of Iran. The second one is actually the asymmetrical conventional capabilities of Iran, mainly based on its missile capabilities. And the third one is a network of allied partners known as the axis of resistance. I'm not going to talk about these three pillars as other colleagues have extensively presented different elements about these three pillars. When I want to talk about the bargaining model of war, we should talk about the parameters of this model. The parameters of this model actually identify the objectives that each actor seeks, and based on the objectives, the strategies that any actor would follow. When an actor seeks to sustain or enhance its position within the international power hierarchy, it follows a defensive strategy, emphasizes the use of military power to maintain or adjust the balance of power. And this approach reflects deterrence by denial. When an actor is searching for strategic stability and preventing war against itself, it follows coercive strategy to preserve or improve the status quo by issuing credible threats. It reflects deterrence by punishment. When an actor seeks to reduce political and material costs, it adopts deceptive strategy that relies on covert diplomacy and intelligence operations to persuade the opponent, to persuade the adversary to voluntarily undertake actions that are ultimately against its own interests. And finally, when an actor seeks to preserve or advance its capacity for military engagement, it adopts accommodation, aims to enhance strategic stability by reducing pressure on the adversary through reducing provocations toward the adversary, clarifying military capabilities, or offering concessions. In this case, it is diplomacy. But in practice, states actually employ a blend and a combination of these deterrence strategies to safeguard their own securities and prevent the outbreak of war, and Iran is not an exception here too. In terms of Iranian nuclear latency capacity, I can say that Iran mainly has followed, prior to the October 7 I'm talking, Iran has mainly followed accommodation strategies. Since 2003, we all know that Iran has participated in multiple rounds of nuclear negotiations. And notably, in 2015, it signed the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, and it agreed on imposing substantial restrictions on its nuclear program and subjected it to transparent international inspection regimes. These developments suggest that Iran has consistently pursued an accommodation strategy to promote strategic stability through its nuclear posture. Actions such as enriching uranium up to 60% or restricting access of International Atomic Energy Agency inspectors, I believe did not signify a fundamental shift in a strategic intent, but were instead deployed as negotiating leverage within broader diplomatic engagements. Iran's investment in enhancing its military capabilities, particularly its missile arsenal, may be interpreted as a form of coercive strategy aimed at preserving the status quo and deterring external aggressions. Nonetheless, Iran has deliberately limited the range of these missiles to under 2,000 kilometers. And it means that this coercive strategy is primarily directed against Israel rather than broader global targets, specifically the United States. And the third and arguably the most pivotal pillar of Iran's hybrid deterrence over the past 2 decades has been the axis of resistance, which was primarily focused on defensive strategy or deterrence by denial, seeking to keep every conflict away from Iran's borders. The The post-October 7 developments like the fall of Bashar Assad and the weakening of Hezbollah, and more importantly, the 12-day war intensively fractured these structures that worked for Iran for several decades. And in these new circumstances, Iran's potential nuclear latency capability is actually in limbo. And I'm deliberately not using the term nuclear ambiguity because I believe that Iran is way far from this strategy. Iranian deterrence by denial has been damaged due to the developments post-October 7, and the previous Iran's deterrence by punishment strategy targeted at Israel proved not working anymore. So it is adapting a new deterrence by punishment, I believe, defined by horizontal escalation across the region, across the regional security complex of Persian Gulf. For years, Iran actually managed its relationship with the United States in the Middle East through gray zone strategy. Iran's gray zone strategy relies on exploiting strategic and conceptual differences between Tehran and Washington. And while US policymakers typically view war and peace in binary terms and are often held back by concerns over escalation, Iran approaches conflict as an spectrum. This contrast allowed Iran to operate effectively in the ambiguous space between peace and war, often without provoking a decisive US response. In a very well-known statement, the Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei said, neither will a war occur, nor we will negotiate. It appears that in his second term as the US President, Donald Trump has adopted a new strategy toward the Middle East and its conflicts, and particularly against Iran. In this approach, Trump aims to demonstrate to Iran that its partners demonstrate to Iran and its partners that the United States poses both the capability and the resolve to engage directly in regional wars, and it will not refrain from intervention due to fears of a full-scale war. And under this new strategy, I believe that the United States seeks to deny Iran the ability to operate in the gray zone and instead compel it into a binary framework, either war or peace. Trump's revised approach toward Iran may be characterized as a blend of coercion and deception strategies. Trump revised first, by employing credible threats to preserve the newly shaped regional status quo, and second, by lowering the political cost of Iranian compliance through incentive designed to encourage Iran to take the desired course of action. Through applying this strategy, I believe that the United States and Trump administration seeks to steer Iran toward accommodation strategy. And in this strategy, the parameter of bargaining is uncertainty. And the actor pursuing this strategy aims to establish strategic stability. Under the current circumstances, Iran may no longer be able to rely on its traditional gray zone approach. Nonetheless, it is determined to ensure that any potential US attacks on Iran would draw Washington into a protracted and expansive conflict across the Middle East, particularly in the Persian Gulf. And Iran does not view a shift toward accommodation strategy as conducive to achieving a strategic stability under current circumstances. Instead, it appears to be gravitating toward a coercive strategy, deterrence by punishment, in which deterring an attack is seen as contingent upon the creation of credible threats. In other words, Iran is, as I said, recalibrating its deterrence posture. And since the beginning of the conflict, I will wrap it up. Since the beginning of the conflict, Iranian officials repeatedly warned that any direct US involvement would prompt a strike against American bases in the Persian Gulf. And as we saw on June 23, In response to the U.S. attack on the Fordo nuclear facility, Iran targeted Al Udeid, the largest American military base in the region, and subsequently Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei asserted that Iran's retaliatory strike had inflicted substantial damage on a key U.S. installation, and he further emphasized that Iran retains the capacity to deliver even greater blows to American interests in the future. Actually, prior to that, Araghchi had also previously undertaken a series of intensive diplomatic visits to regional states following Operation True Promise 2 and the second wave of Iranian missile strikes against Israel in October 2024. And he said that the aim of these visits was the message of fear and hope, warning the regional governments that any war between Iran and Israel would not remain confined to the two countries, and the United States military bases across the region would not be immune from any Iranian retaliation. Well, this is the main topics I would like to share with you. I will stop here and looking forward to your questions. Thank you.
شكرا جزيلا دكتورة زكية.
Thank you very much, Dr. Zakieh, for the presentation. Now we have some time for discussion.
Personally, I'm not agree to the use of 7 October as a turn point in the discussion in the international system, in the resolution and etc., because I think this is the one tendency that injections by some Occidental the approach in the international relation. For example, in Iran, that 13 June, that the day of attack the Israeli regime to Iran can be the build-up. Anyhow, Dr. Maleki and Dr. Hasheminejad during of the presentation refer to two new concept that is very interesting for myself as a diplomat. The first is the sovereign diplomacy, and the second is coercive diplomacy. Sovereign deterrence and coercive diplomacy, because it's the first time that I heard about the coercive diplomacy, because I heard unilateral coercive measure, because like a sanction or use him, unilateral coercive measure. But it's the first time I understand about the coercive diplomacy. As you know very well, the diplomacy normally is based on the soft diplomacy, on the respect, on the negotiation, on give and take. But the using diplomacy with the adjective of coercive diplomacy, it is the strange for me, and I would appreciate it. It is possible more elaborate on this terminology. What do you mean exactly from coercive diplomacy and sovereign deterrence? Thank you so much.
Here.
Thank you for very good presentations. I learned a lot. I have a question for Dr. Yazdanshenas about the word that you used as horizontal deterrence, if I don't make mistake. Could you please elaborate on that, how it is different from like the axis of resistance and the current Iranian strategy of increasing the cost of adversary by regionalizing the war? How that makes difference, the new phase of it.
My question is in Arabic. I have a question to Dr. Zakieh. Why has Iran attacked a friendly country? They have attacked Al Udeid, since there are some other bases around Iran other than the one in Qatar. My second question is to Mrs. Maryam Hasheminejad. You said that Iran lost Syria. Is it a loss or is it a tactical withdrawal for the coming phase?
Thank you for the presentations at all. And my question is for the first paper was presented by the professor and the lady there. You mentioned a lot the failing of the proxy warfare in the Middle East led by Iran. Is it failing because of the idea itself, the proxy warfare? However, it succeeded in so many cases in other places, or the Iranian strategy itself, especially in Syria, which was criticized by so many people, so many experts. The second thing is how will Iran apply the new term of the diplomatic influence in the Middle East, because you suggested a diplomatic influence in the Middle East more than depending on the harsh power. The proxy warfare in Yemen, Syria, Lebanon, which they lost two capitals now, Lebanon and Syria, due to the failing of the strategy, not the failing of the other part. The strategy wasn't successful and wasn't in tendency for the people of the country. So, for example, in Syria, the interference was for the favor of Assad, which was not supported by the Syrians itself. And you can see now the things. And a very interesting point was mentioned by the professor there. You suggested Iran should withdraw from the Middle East, which I interacted to it by wow, why? Because if you as an Arab citizen, then I'm saying that if you withdraw from the Middle East, who would be the other power be in the Middle East? You mean the Western powers and their alliances in the Middle East, like Israel and so on?
شكرا. دعونا نتوقف هنا الجولة الثانية لأنه أصبحنا أمام 5 أسئلة. We'll start with Dr. Abbas.
Thank you. That's very kind.
About the question if Iran lost Syria, following Assad regime doesn't mean that Iran lost Syria forever, of course. But in short term, we can say Iran will lost a partner, a strategic partner. And again, another thing is that we can say the future of Syria is not very certain. We face many uncertainty about the future of Syria, political future, which neighbor with real dominance, the political and geopolitical aspect of this territory. So for sure, in short term, we can say Iran lost Syria, but in long term, of course, there will be many cards that Iran can play to, again, influence in Syria.
First, I want to thank Dr. Kamrawa to invite me to this very interesting gathering. I did not have opportunity to do that in the first part of my discussion. Coercive diplomacy means when you are working on the game theory, means one player is eager to talk to you, and several times he or she says that I am eager to diplomacy, to talk, to negotiate, to dialogue, discourse, and others. But when you agree to talk with her, then what would be happen? He returns you during the session. He returns you to the force, to the implementing of something, and force you to do that. One example is United States talks with Iran in Muscat and also Rome. You should see that was not, this is the coercive diplomacy. And another example is the 1992 talks between Iraq and United States, when United States decided to attack to Iraq. Before that, Americans, many times they declared we are ready to the diplomatic way to ask Iraq to withdraw from Kuwait and other issues. Tariq Aziz, the former foreign minister of Iraq, says We went to Switzerland, to Geneva, into Intercontinental Hotel. And then it was a very big hall. Many media and reporters, and James Baker had a lot of documents. And he told to the reporters and journalists that we have many hours discussions with Iraq. When the journalists, they left the hall, Jim Baker left from another door without any talk with Iraqi foreign minister. This is coercive action. The other issue, maybe it's better to answer other panelists and then I will touch.
Okay, regarding the first question, Dr. Deep Solar asked, I think that the axis of resistance was mainly based on the philosophy of defense, not the philosophy of escalation. In fact, Iran was going to make a ring of fire around Israel in order to contain, in order to halt and counter Israel far from its own borders. Iran thought that the United States has encircled it. Okay, fine. I will encircle Israel by my own partners and my own allies. But the main logic, the core logic was not escalation. The core logic was defense. The core logic was halting Israel where it is. But in the new deterrence by punishment, I believe that the core element, the core logic is logic is escalation. And this escalation is working, unfortunately, against Iranian neighbors in the Persian Gulf because they are maybe easy target for Iran. Of course, I'm not confirming this strategy. I'm just analyzing it in a way that I can understand it. And regarding the second question, I think that Iran chose to target Al-Udaid because it wanted to show that it is determined to follow this strategy and it is ready to even attack a friendly neighbor in the Persian Gulf. And I think the main logic was that it would work in the best possible way when Iran show itself eager to even attack to bases in Qatar.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Reza?
Yeah.
1 minute.
Just I wanted to stress that even though network deterrence, failed, as we can see, in the scene, real scene, geopolitical scene, but I think it worked for many years for Iran. Iran could benefit from this deterrence. This is one point I wanted to stress. The second point, I think the Syria situation is not, fixed now. It still can be opportunity for Iran, even in this chaos there is in Syria. Iran can use it in favor of yourself. So we cannot say because regime in Syria changed, this is actually, Iran lose totally its leverage. And the last point I want to stress that is that Yemen, as a part of the network deterrence, still can help Iran. So, in other words, I want to say this network deterrence policy not totally diminished. Another point I want to stress is that I think after 12 war, Iran will more focus on self-help. Iran understood even some tactical countries, tactical friends like Russia and China cannot help Iran in difficult situation, intense situation. So Iran has to, come back to itself and focus on its capability and make, itself more stronger than before. Thank you.
Thank you دكتور. آخر سؤالين 3 أسئلة هنا. ما عندناش وقت آخر اللي كانوا رافعين ايديهم. Yes, here and you and then last question. We don't have time for more questions.
One, the show was.
Yeah, we're gonna, yes, yeah.
Thank you for all the thought-provoking presentations of this panel. My question is for Dr. Maleki. How is it possible for Iran to leave Middle East and prioritize its other geopolitical interests when it's been surrounded by the U.S. military bases in its neighborhood? And based on your argument, what are the alternatives for Iran to counterbalance the security threats posed by the U.S. and its allies in the Middle East? Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah.
This week.
Thank you. Since the earlier sessions, there are repeating patterns here that proxy warfare strategy of Iran failed to provide security to Iran, but it is still counted as alternatives. In either papers of Dr. Maleki and other papers, continuing sustaining relations with non-state actors counted as an alternative for Iran. But as far as Iran continued adhere to this strategy to work with non-state actors, Iran will be perceived, or Iranian image of destabilizing actor or seeking regional hegemony will continue and work against the Iranian interest. And I have a comment to Dr. Maleki again. You are not alone asking Iranian withdrawal from the Middle East. There are many people, I am sure. But you are not alone again. In Turkey, for long years, many people asked for Turkish withdrawal from the Middle East. But as far as we strive for withdrawing, but something in this quagmire, in this Arab Middle East quagmire, pulled continuously inside it.
Okay, thank you. آخر سؤال هنا.
Thank you very much. I have two questions. The first one is for Dr. Zakieh, the real one, not the fake biologist. And I just want to ask if you can expand a bit on what you said is the new U.S. strategy towards Iran and how Iran's response is deterrence by punishment, where it will drag it for a protracted and expansive conflict in the region. What do you mean by that? Can you elaborate further? Are you talking about like attack in the Strait of Hormuz or the attacking U.S. military bases? And if it is to attack U.S. military bases, is it by Iran itself or by its proxies? And the second question is for Dr. Reza. You mentioned about withdrawing from the Middle East. Does that entail also withdrawing from the nuclear project? Because if you want to keep with the nuclear project, then it will be a bit harmful to withdraw from the Middle East, as the power vacuum that will happen will lead to these regions to go towards Western-friendly nations.
Okay, thank you. عندنا 2 minutes for each.
Here's the third opponent.
Okay, I think first, the most important event in Iranian history was collapse of Soviet Union from 7,000 years ago until now. We had enjoyed only from half of our borders before collapse of Soviet Union. I mean, Turkey, Iraq, Persian Gulf state, Pakistan, only and only. Rest of them, they were behind of the Iron Wall. Iron Wall was from Berlin to Iranian borders, okay? Afghanistan also was occupied by Soviet Union, if you remember. Therefore, after the collapse of Soviet Union, God, or maybe nature, I don't know who, but one person gave Iran another opportunity, equal the former borders which Iran had with Arab states and Turkey. And I think the Iranians, they must put all of the efforts to develop their relations with this new world. Caucasia, Caspian Sea, Central Asia, and New Afghanistan. Even Afghanistan under the occupation of Taliban, it is an opportunity for Iran. Therefore, I withdrew from Middle East because my friend drew a caricature that shows that Iran is octopus for Middle East. Iran is a very beautiful bird for Central Asian and Caucasian countries. You should ask them. Therefore, why, as my friend from Turkey said, we want to withdraw from Middle East. The Middle Eastern countries also, they are eager to see the withdrawal of Iranians from this region. Therefore, like a wife and husband, both of them, they agree to this case. And I think after that, it is very interesting to see my brothers, Arab nations and Israel. What do they do on that time? This is very important. I think the case of Turkey in Middle East also is very important. Don't look at the Turkey and Idlib and Halab and Aleppo and others. This is the first round of the game. We must pay attention to we must be patient again for this case. And the last point is that I think Iranians really, they love to have best relations with Arab states. There are several issues, several reasons. One of them is that we love Prophet Muhammad and his family. But it doesn't mean that we don't live without the Arab states. No, we can do that, and we had during history. But really, we want to have better relations, the best relations, and we have. We look at Iran, Saudi Arabia, Iran, Qatar, Iran, Oman, and other countries, and Iran, Iraq. Iran, it is the first time to the history that Iranians and Iraqis, Iran and Iraq is the main route. Iraq, Iran, Arab, Iran, Ajam. Yes, we are the same. Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Reza, do you have something to add? No? Dr. Zakieh?
Yes, Anas.
About the U.S. new strategy toward Iran, I said that Trump administration is following a combination of coercive strategy and deception strategy in order to force Iran to change its behavior. Actually, we're witnessing a new status quo in the region. In the new circumstances, the axis of resistance, the network that Iran once has shaped is somehow eroded. And Iran's nuclear facilities are strictly damaged. And actually, the United States is going to preserve and to establish this new status quo. So it's using coercive strategy in order to push Iran toward some kind of accommodation or whether say some kind of appeasement strategy. But Iran believes that this strategy that the United States expects it to follow is a recipe for disaster, and it will make another Libya out of Iran. So Iran is going to respond by its own version of coercive strategy, by making a new kind of deterrence by punishment. And about your question, if Iran is going to threat the United States bases an interest in the region by itself or by its allies, I think that the experience of the 12-day war and all the post-October 7 developments show us that the time of using the proxies, the time of using allies and partners is over. And I believe that Iran is eager to show that if there's going to be another attacks, it will be operated by itself.
شكرا جزيلا. أنا أعتذر ليس لدينا وقت لمزيد من الأسئلة، لكن غدا إن شاء الله لدينا 5 more sessions يعني إن شاء الله tomorrow. So يعني إن شاء الله we'll have time to more questions. شكرا جزيلا.